Transformation. Indeed. Yeah, thoughts of recent presentations by folks in this group that I really did find both enjoyable and enlightening were quite autobiographical in nature. Has there been, I asked myself, any sort of transformation in my own life worthy of crafting into a story? I have paused frequently to ask myself the perennial questions. Who am I? What is my purpose? Reflecting back upon the 7.5 decades of my existence, I am able to identify significant moments of transformation, one of which I shared with you a few minutes ago. I choose to examine two very much related transformations that have occurred in the course of my journey throughout this life. For reasons I shall examine, my earlier existence was dominated by a sense of inadequacy and low self-esteem. To compensate for this reality, I developed a competitive personality, very prone to dominating and controlling those with whom I interacted. I'm delighted to share my current reality. Life is good. I feel confident now that many of my choices have been good ones and that I have made a positive difference in the lives of many folks. I carried the perceived expectations of my parents and influence of my siblings as strong guidance for my life choices almost to the end of my graduate school program. For many years, I resisted what clearly has been my calling from the very beginning. Initially, I set myself on a journey to become a research scientist, but by default, found myself sidetracked into quite a variety of teaching, coaching, and leadership situations. As a Boy Scout patrol leader, as a scoutmaster, as a leader of camping expeditions, as a classroom teacher, as a military officer, and as a father, strongly controlling situations seemed to work best for me. I would like to think that I did exercise an acceptable level of social sensitivity, but I exercised without question a take charge and dominate leadership style for a good portion of my working years. I was born in New Haven, Connecticut in 1942. I was oblivious then of the World War that raged across the planet at that time. My Uncle Bud took up residence in the other half of a duplex apartment in Hamden, Connecticut, as my first lifetime memories became printed in my mind's eye. He had just been released from prison camp in Germany. He and 2 of the 7 members of his B-24 survived by parachuting to safety when anti-aircraft fire ripped into his plane on a bombing run over Berlin. Only now do I fully appreciate the positive influence my Uncle Bud has had upon me in the development of my own character. After the war, my dad assumed an executive sales position with a Berger Brothers company in New Haven, Connecticut, that manufactured women's corsets. My mom, who was the first female art student at Yale University in New Haven, continued her artistic calling, but prioritized raising me and my 2 brothers. My dad purchased a property next to the High Lane Tennis and Pool Club in North Haven, Connecticut in 1947. He designed and had built what was a highly unusual house in its day, which indeed set the Dodge family apart from the local norm. At this stage in my life, I owned a sense of isolation and inadequacy, in part because of sibling jealousy from the social success that my older brother seemed to be enjoying. I found deep solace in being alone in small patches of forest, building forts and tree houses, catching frogs and water snakes in the High Lane Club pond near my home. At that time, I did not articulate my feelings about nature, but in fact, I did worship this creation. I harbored a deep fear of harsh discipline from both my father and mother should I make any inappropriate choices. Throwing a rock at one of my brothers that missed him and smashed a picture window in my parents' bedroom was not a good choice. The infrequently but clearly remembered stinging applications of a leather belt upon my bare butt extracted nearly complete compliance with their expectations for my behavior. The strong-handed authoritarian control dominated my early upbringing and served as a role model for my own interface with others. At the age of 10 or so, I became aware of the consequences of my dad's extreme anxiety attacks that found him institutionalized for weeks at a stretch. The genetic predisposition for his bipolar disorder does extend in varying degrees to his progeny. It was at the age of 44, my dad suffered an unanticipated fatal heart attack while walking on the streets of Chicago. At the age of 12, then, I recall deciding with strong conviction that I would not pursue a stress-inducing career. The next 5 years of my life, however, did not go well. My whole world turned upside down when my mom remarried a year or so after the death of my father. In time, I did develop a deep love for my Yale-educated stepdad, who was the vice president of the First New Haven National Bank. But elements of the new environment and a sequence of events triggered episodes of almost debilitating depression and anxiety. My new family and both of my brothers defined themselves as social and intellectual elites for reasons that I do not really understand. I rejected any active quest for social status to the extent that I did not wish to enter the private secondary school intent upon preparing its graduates to qualify for admission to the Ivy League Yale University in New Haven, Connecticut. Both of my brothers and all 5 of my stepbrothers attended the Hotchkiss School in Lakeville, Connecticut. 5 of my 7 brothers completed undergraduate degrees from Yale. Through the 9th grade, I attended a public school in Cheshire, Connecticut, where I felt seriously out of place. To prove my academic ability, I did work particularly hard, but as a student there, but found myself rejected by my peers for being the only 9th grade student in the high honor roll. My parents enrolled me in the nearby Cheshire Academy, a private day and boarding school, the path which my Uncle Bud had taken to gain admission to Yale. My experience here with underachieving, sometimes deviant wealthy kids from New York City was not good. In the meantime, my superachieving brothers carried onward. My oldest stepbrother entered Columbia Medical School. The next oldest completed a PhD in Slavic languages at Yale and obtained a faculty position at Swarthmore teaching Russian. The third oldest of the Bradley boys finished first in his class at Yale, continued there to earn a PhD in Greek and Latin, and obtained a faculty position at Dartmouth College teaching classical languages. My older brother Lowell completed his program at Yale, earned a law degree from Harvard, and obtained a position working with Ralph Nader, where they co-authored a book on auto safety. The elements of my own bipolar disorder at this time found me struggling seriously to maintain a hold on my world. My Uncle Bud had retired from a position with the Pratt & Whitney aircraft industry in Hartford, Connecticut, and obtained a position as a headmaster of a private secondary school in Santa Barbara, California. In conversation with my mom, he suggested that I attend a Kate school in Carpinteria, California. His sense of who I was and his awareness of the match of my capabilities in the program offered by the Kate school were dead on target. Far removed now from what had become debilitating sibling rivalry, I began to develop a new and very welcome level of confidence and self-worth. I held my own in the academic program and gained particular interest in chemistry and physics. I bonded with many of the very supportive teachers. My appointment as one of the 6 seniors as a dorm monitor, we were called prefects, validated their evaluation of my leadership capabilities. It was here at Kate the competitive component of my character found outlet. My dedication to physical conditioning and playing tennis during my childhood at the High Lane Club and at Kate enabled me to win both the school tennis tournament and the mile run in the school track meet. I entered Colby College in Waterville, Maine in 1961. Again, it was my Uncle Bud in conversation with the headmaster at Kate who identified this small liberal arts institution as a good match for me and my capabilities. The extraordinary academic demands of my chemistry major at Colby forced me to fight hard for 4 years to keep my head above water. Had it not been for the passion I developed and the joy I realized from leading outdoor activities, I doubt I could have survived the academic pain. In the spring of 1962, I restarted the Colby Woodsman's team and served as captain and designated coach of this group for my 4 years at Colby. My sophomore year, I was elected president of the Colby Outing Club and served in this capacity through the beginning of my senior year. For 4 consecutive summers, starting in 1962, I served as a counselor for a boys' camp in Belgrade, Maine. For at least 6 of the 8 weeks of each summer camp season, I hiked trails, climbed mountains, paddled Maine rivers and lakes with small groups of young boys. A cruel to me, but fortuitous failure it turned out, to gain admittance to, yes, Yale University Graduate School and a PhD program to study lakes, and rejections from 3 other graduate schools, found me accepting a fallback position as a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade science teacher in a seacoast fishing village in Milltown of Thomaston, Maine. After 2 years there, a military draft notice in 1967 propelled me to a position as a deck watch officer aboard the United States Coast Guard cutter Sedge in Prince William Sound, Cordova, Alaska. In the fall of 1970, I gained admission to Utah State University in Logan, Utah. It was in 1972 with a fresh graduate degree in forest recreation. I landed a teaching position as an instructor of conservation at the then storefront campus of the Community College of the Finger Lakes. After having failed to obtain my long-time employment dream as a wilderness area manager for the United States Forest Service, I finally woke up to the reality that I was meant to be a teacher. My 39 years at Finger Lakes Community College could not have been more fulfilling. I nurtured a deep passion and maintained a high level of excitement for my teaching and my coaching. At first, my teaching method focused on the traditional autocratic lecture format. I was the master of the classroom and I dominated limited student participation. My sabbatical leave in the fall of 1999 marked the beginning of my life transformation from one focused on dominance and control to one of compassion and acceptance. I took up residence in a remote, best accessible by canoe, log cabin on the otherwise uninhabited shore of Ottawa Lake in the least populated county in the state of Maine. For 4 months, I devoured dozens of books related to educational theory, social change, spiritual relations to nature, and global sustainability. In January of 2000, I presented my course proposal, which I entitled Sustainable Earth, Spiritual and Scientific Consilience, to the Conservation Department faculty. Long debate. You can't teach values and spirituality here. This is a science program. In the end, only by dual listing the course as a philosophy/conservation elective would the dissenting half of my department accept the course as part of the program. In fact, Peter and Mary Beth took that course from me. And several others of you in here too, for that matter. Ultimately, this class gathered for one evening a week for 3 hours in a very comfortable living room of the new campus honors house. That's thanks to Kurt and Ani Naren Bliss, who were here too. The honors program. The transformation of my teaching format to student-initiated, student-conducted seminar approach seemed almost magical, having students present, debate, and defend positions on environmental and social issues, as these related to sustainability, engaged everyone far better than my finest lecture and chalkboard performance ever could. All things considered, the positive impact and total educational value of this course far exceeded that of any academic course I had previously presented. In passing, though, I still maintain that the 43 2- to 5-week credit-bearing field ecology courses to the Everglades, Costa Rica, Belize, and Alaska stand as the ultimate educational experiences I was able to offer. When I retired in the spring of 2011, I was asked to speak to the graduates and all others present on behalf of the Finger Lakes Community College faculty at the commencement ceremonies. As I crafted the words for this event, recognition and acceptance of the reasons for the successes I had realized as a teacher and a coach dawned on me. Measuring my success as a teacher would always be anecdotal. Measuring my success as a coach of the FLCC Woodsman's team is definitive. From 1974 through 2011, the FLCC men's team and the women's team combined won 32 championships, far more than any other school in the entire country. Certainly, many qualities contribute to success as a teacher or a coach. I attribute the expectations of my extended family to strive for excellence, to be significant, even though in my own eyes I fell short of making it into the best schools. My lifelong love of learning positioned me well to be in command of my subject material. Competitive drive and will to win certainly contribute, as does a high level of excitement and passion for my pursuit of any goal. Another whole cluster of awarenesses began to take hold of my personal growth and development in 2001. The inherent worth and dignity of every person, as well as the value of justice, equity, and loving compassion in dealing with all of my fellow human beings, precipitated a gradual but ultimately major transformation in my approach to my interpersonal interactions. The first Sunday I attended a service at the Unitarian Universalist congregation of Canandaigua, I knew I had found my spiritual home. I signed the membership book that day. And it was Petra that said to me, Marty, come to church with me Sunday. And I looked at my little black book, and there's no reason I can't. My success as a teacher and coach can be attributed to a passionate sense of dedication and purpose. Actions that inspire, instill confidence, in a sense that I really do care and respect each individual. But in the final analysis, it all comes down to one living concept, a powerful concept capable of healing our entire planet. Indeed, a guiding philosophy I choose to incorporate in one simple word: love. Yes, I said love. The final 10 years of my career as a teacher and coach, I came to believe that acceptance, inclusion, support, encouragement, and approval far exceed domination, control, and condemnation in developing desirable changes in performance. As I reflect upon my life in regards to a sense of purpose and value of my accomplishments, the transformations from a controlling personality to an accepting personality marks the transformation from self-doubt to one of much greater sense of self-worth. Reflecting, too, upon my sense of inadequacy when compared to my siblings, I am able to take great pride as a result of the impact that their life success has had on my own daughters. Rebecca earned a graduate degree from Yale University in Public Health Administration. Andrea graduated from Hotchkiss School, entered an undergraduate program at Yale and completed that, and earned an MBA degree in Public Administration from the Kennedy School at Harvard University. To end this story, I should relate a highly significant to me communication I had in January of this year while fly fishing in Patagonia, Chile, with my younger brother, Steve. Steve, of course, graduated from Hotchkiss and Yale. After a stint in the Navy during the Nam era, he landed a job with the Bank of Boston as a venture loan officer, and as such, the success of the startup companies for which he approved loans exceeded for 2 consecutive years that experienced by all other startup loan officers in the country. He saw the potential of cable television. He started and operated American Cable Incorporated. Sold that in 3 years for nearly $4 million. Started American Radio, which grew to include 115 FM stations in fast-growing cities in the United States, including 2 in Rochester. Sold that for $2.5 billion to start American Tower. At the time, cell phones came on the scene. As part of this operation, he purchased an iron mine in West Virginia and a steel foundry to manufacture, install, and operate more than 30,000 microwave towers in North and South America. When he transferred the operation of this venture to a younger management team, he established the Windover Development Limited Liability Corporation and undertook the construction of many hundred seriously upscale homes and commercial properties on the North Bay of Boston. In 2008, he built his 3rd oceanfront home, this one in Florida, keeping the other 2, one on the North Bay of Boston and one with half a mile of ocean frontage on Cape Cod. In Florida, following the 2008 crash, Steve found new opportunity in the purchase of many foreclosed properties. Steve said to me, as we walked towards yet another trout-filled pool on the Magdalena River in Patagonia, Chile, that he and Lowell certainly had achieved a significant level of success in their respective careers, but that their choices came with significant costs. I think you, he said, found a path that you have loved from the outset. All of the things you have accomplished through your teaching, your coaching, your leading groups in the out of doors have given you an extraordinary level of happiness and have made a huge and positive difference in the lives of so many people. You deserve to feel yourself to be the most successful member of our clan. Loving, sharing love, giving of yourself seem to me to be the most certain path to a sense of purpose and happiness. Let it be so.
Like the maple seeds spiraling gracefully round, though the winds blow gently homeward, like a feather's caress that glides on the ground. Feel the winds blow gently homeward, like a leaf on the water that goes where it goes, like a sea that had rest, knowing all that it knows. Blow, the winds blow gently from the top of the sky, the blue darkness descends. Blow, the winds blow gently for the trials of the day, do the stars make amends? Feel the winds blow gently like the serpentine through the rolling lazily down, like a root to the heart that was lost and then found. Then gently they turn, heading home. Like the rain of pure laughter with no place to hide. Blow, the winds blow gently homeward, like a hope for the dawn that takes refuge inside. Feel the winds blow gently homeward, like a road to the distance that's seen with eyes closed, like a vision of peace in the dreams you suppose. Just close your eyes and look over. Just close your eyes and look over.
Down and say the words for extinguishing the chalice with me. We
Distinguish the flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.
go in peace.
Join us for worship every Sunday at 10 a.m. at the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua, a welcoming congregation. We are located at 3024 Cooley Road, 4 miles west of South Main Street, Canandaigua, just north of the intersection with Routes 5 and 20. Look for the blue signs just before the turn. Your comments about this program or questions about the church are welcome at 585-396-1370 or at our website, www.canandaiguauu.org. Producer and editor, Daniel Brigham.